help us out. God has ways of answering prayers we have no idea. Right when we need, He's there. You know, one of the things I thought about this week is preparing for this message. We live in a great land. We do. And of course we have some serious problems. The thing is, I'm not going to stand here before you today and pretend everything is okay. To preach a message that's uplifting and hopeful, which we need that. But also, the hard truth needs to be spoken. And I'm going to preach some things today, and I hope it draws our minds to that one point that God always points to, and that is His Word. His Word has been an example to us. It's a history. It's His story of what He has done with mankind down through the ages. We cannot ever say that God never showed His love to people who loved Him. We also cannot deny that He has also showed His wrath against those who have rejected Him. I believe everyone in this room, and I think I'm safe in saying that, loves the United States of America. Also, I think you feel richly blessed for being a citizen of this great nation. Let's not ever take that privilege for granted. Paul and I have traveled to different places of the world. We haven't been worldwide, but we have been in places where there's strife, there's civil unrest, dangerous driving down the highway. You don't drive at night because you'll be waylaid if you do. So let's don't take that privilege for granted. And when we stood and we said to pledge allegiance to our flag, we joined in singing the Star Spangled Banner or sung America the Beautiful. Oftentimes, it's not only sense of the tremendous sacrifices made in order to be able to be free and to remain free. There's probably no other country in the world that has its beginning more intertwined with the biblical foundations than the United States of America. When you look back over history, you learn that our forefathers came here in search of religious freedom. They risked their lives, they risked their families by leaving their homes on a quest to find the right to worship the one true God without persecution. And if you read the early history, it'll confess that practically everything that happened was based upon deep religious convictions. School in the early days, the one-room schoolhouse. They used to use the Bible as the most important textbook. And God was an important part of the schoolhouse discussions. God was always brought in to their conversations. Children even grew up reading the Bible. There's something else. The founders of our country, they went to their knees many times seeking both wisdom and the power of God in making the right decisions. And you know what? They went to the knees in prayer without shame. They went because they knew they could go to Almighty God and seek His help. For sure, our country has a very rich, memorable history. We have always been one nation under God, depending on God each day for existence. And we must continue to do so if we are to survive as a nation. But as we celebrate our nation's 244th birthday, it doesn't take much to realize that many detrimental changes have taken place in those 244 years. This nation, which is supposed to be a Christian nation, leads the world into divorce rate and abortions and alcoholism and drug abuse and in violent crime. I just pulled open the headlines this morning, and there was murder everywhere in Chicago last night. Children were killed. And that's an everyday occurrence. Immorality, which I preached on last week, seems to reign supreme. There's so much that's wrong with our country, and yet we always have hope that we can come back to the basics, restoring God to His rightful place in our nation, in our government, in our schools, in our homes, in all of society. That hope still exists. But there's a question that it causes concern. The question is, if we should reverse the trend, and if we would get back to what we need to be as a nation, then can God still bless America? Sure, God can bless any country He wants to, because God is God, right? So maybe a more important question would be, will God still bless America? The only way we can answer that question, I think, is to look at the way God has dealt with other nations. Those who have rejected Him or pushed Him aside or simply ignored Him. The story of one such nation is found in 2 Kings, chapters 21 through 23. It's a story of the nation of Judah. It's a history lesson that we would be better off to learn from, that's for sure. The Scripture tells us that following the death of King Solomon, there was a civil war, and the kingdom was divided into two kingdoms: the northern kingdom of Israel and the southern kingdom of Judah. But as you read the history of the northern kingdom of Israel, you discover that every king that comes to power is bad. He's evil. Every king rebelled against the will of God until finally God got so angered at Israel that in 722 He allowed the northern kingdom of Israel to be destroyed. But when you read the history of the southern kingdom of Judah, you discover that they have their ups and downs, that's for sure. There are times when they're good kings, and there are times when they're bad kings. So God permitted the nation of Judah to continue on for a while. In 2 Kings chapter 21, you read about a king by the name of Manasseh. In fact, as the chapter begins, we find that Manasseh began to rule when he was 12 years old. And he ruled for the next 55 years. Then his son succeeded him, but his rule lasted only 2 years because he was just as bad as Papa. For 57 years, Judah was under the influence of evil kings. Now here are the 5 things that happened to Judah during that time. First of all, Manasseh and his son led the people to Judah to forsake God. They forgot about God. They stopped worshiping God. And in place of worshiping God, they began to worship idols. Manasseh erected the temples and altars to Baal and reestablished the pole of Ashtoreth. And the temple that Solomon had built and dedicated to the worship of God was forsaken, abandoned. Now, along with that, almost the whole nation began to pursue the occult and Satanism. They listened to astrologers and spiritists and mediums. But do you notice some parallels here between what took place there and then and what's taking place here and now? There are evil forces afoot taking every opportunity to put God out of our nation. And as we know, all has become politically correct to talk about God in most other places. We can't do that anymore. So they say. And as a result, there's been false religions and cults gradually creeping across our nation, and many of which are involved with attempts to communicate with the dead. Thirdly, the Bible tells us that the streets of Judah ran red with the blood of innocent people. Sanctity of life was not a priority anymore. Today we still abort millions and millions of babies. I just read a sworn testimony from a person from Planned Parenthood. And she testified about the appalling treatment of babies whose hearts are still beating after abortion. And the things that are done to those babies, I'm not willing to repeat. I could not bring myself to tell you that. You can read the article yourself. It's awful. It's awful. We have no idea what they do. And the hard fact is our conscience has become so hardened that nothing so cruel bothers society anymore. Evil has become commonplace as breathing. 1 Timothy chapter 4, verses 1 and 2 foretells what is happening to us today. And it says this, "Now the Spirit expressly says that in latter times some will depart from the faith, giving heed to deceiving spirits and doctrines of demons, speaking lies and hypocrisy, having their own conscience seared with a hot iron." I think we're at that point today in our nation. America is on the edge of a cliff and losing its conscience. And if it doesn't step back from that ledge, we will free fall into what Israel experienced. And the fourth thing that happened in Judah was that sexual desires were satisfied outside of marriage. The sanctity of marriage was ignored, and people but sought sexual satisfaction any place they could find it. Sexual perversion and immorality dominated society. Not too terribly long ago, prostitution was looked down upon. Today, it has become accepted. It's been rebranded with a politically correct name called sex workers. And guess what? They've even formed a union. And finally, the fifth thing that happened was that Judah failed to listen to the warnings of God. God loved the people of Judah. And time and again, He warned them that they were going to go in the wrong way. And they needed to come back to His law. But they ignored His warnings, and finally God said, "Enough. I'm done. I've done all I can do." But before that happened, there was an interesting change of events. By chapter 22, both Manasseh and his son were dead, and a new king comes along. And his name is Josiah. Josiah started to rule when he was 8 years old, and he ruled for the next 31 years. He was a good king and began to correct all the things that Manasseh had done. He tears down the altars to Baal and the pole of Ashtoreth. He begins to restore the worship of God once again in the temple and the principles of sanctity of life and sanctity of marriage. He keeps reminding the people about the warnings of God towards the nation. And because of that, you begin to see them moving back where God wanted them to be. But there's an interesting passage in 2 Kings 23 that's bothersome. Here's what it says, 2 Kings chapter 23, verses 26 to 27. "Nevertheless, the Lord did not turn from His fierceness of His great wrath, with which His anger was aroused against Judah, because of all the provocations with which Manasseh provoked him. And the Lord said this, I will also remove Judah from my sight, as I have removed Israel, and will cast off this city, Jerusalem, which I have chosen, and the house of which I said, my name shall be there. In 586, God destroyed Judah, even though Josiah, a good king, tried to bring them back where they needed to be, and tried to restore the worship of God. Now here's the question. Even if the pendulum does swing back, and even we begin once again to return to the things that made this nation great, which brought the blessing of God, my question is this. Will God still bless America? Or have we gone too far? Is it too late? What is the root of our problem? Why have we so alienated ourselves from God? Why have we virtually ruled God out of our nation and everything we do? And probably the one-word answer is pride. Now, in some ways, pride is good. But the pride that the Bible condemns is that which the Bible, in the dictionary, defined as too high an opinion of oneself. Conceit. Acting as if better than others. Scorn of others. In other words, making what we think and what we want more important than what God wants. Sound familiar? Pride is the beginning of sin. It's the reason that Satan was cast out of heaven. Pride is the reason that Adam and Eve sinned in the Garden of Eden. And we begin to trace the history of sin in our own life. We find that the root of it is usually pride. So I want to take just a quick look at what the Bible says about pride. Before I do that, let me wet my whistle. First of all, what does God think about pride? Psalm 138:6 says, though the Lord is on high, he looks upon the lowly. The proud he knows from afar. That says to me that God is closer to the lowly or the humble than he is to those whose pride is a predominant characteristic of their lives. Proverbs 16:5 says, the Lord detests all that proud of heart. And verse 18 says, pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. James says in chapter 4, verse 6, and 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 5, he says this. Both of them say the same thing. God opposes the proud but gives grace to the humble. I think our nation needs to do a lot of humbling. We've become too much of ourselves. We need to come humble before the Lord and confess our sins and repent. The Lord will hear. In Luke chapter 18, verse 9 says, Jesus spoke this parable to some who trusted in themselves that they were righteous and despised others. Then he goes on to say, two men went up to the temple to pray, one a Pharisee and the other a tax collector. The Pharisee stood up and prayed about himself. God, I thank you that I'm not like all other men, robbers, evildoers, adulterers, even like this tax collector. I'm glad I'm not like him. I fast twice a week and give a tenth of all I get. Look at me. I'm very good. I'm very proud of myself. The tax collector stood at a distance. And Jesus said he would not even look up to heaven, but beat his breast and said, God, have mercy on me, a sinner. Then Jesus says, I tell you that this man, rather than the other, went home justified before God. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and he who humbles himself will be exalted. The Pharisee didn't go to the temple to humbly seek God and pray. He went to the temple to be seen, to announce to everyone how good he was. But the tax collector went humbly before God, recognized his sin, and begging for mercy. There's quite a difference. In the eyes of God, self-righteousness is dangerous because it leads to pride, which leads to despising others, which leads to refusing to learn anything from God. The tax collector's prayer should be our prayer because we need God's mercy. People don't realize that. Our nation as a whole does not realize that we need God's mercy. I don't know how much money you're going to throw at it. It doesn't change. It never will change. Only God's mercy will change our nation. Not only does this parable tell us what God thinks about pride, but it also tells us some ways in which pride affects our lives. First of all, pride blinds us from seeing our own need. As this Pharisee stands before the Lord filled with pride, he doesn't recognize any need in his whole life. He is good. I don't need anything. I don't need anybody's help. I am good. He's okay. It's everyone else that needs help, not me. Pride also blinds us from admitting that we cannot fix ourselves. But if I do have a problem, I can fix it on my own in my own way. I think that's where the mentality of our country has resided for far too long. We're doing the same things over and over again, thinking we have the power to fix it. But if you keep doing the same thing over and over again and again, you'll have the same result. If we elect different political parties, if we create more social programs, if we build more housing for the homeless, if we'll tear down and destroy all the historical monuments, if we'll erase our history, if we'll change our vocabulary, if we'll just throw more money at our problems, we can fix ourselves. Well, how does that work for us? It never will work because guess what? God's not in it. The only one who can fix our problem is God, and the humble heart realizes that. They know they can go to God and He will fix it. Thirdly, pride is always more concerned about what people think than about what God thinks. The scribes and the Pharisees were always concerned about image. And Jesus described them best in Luke chapter 20, verse 46. And He says this, beware of the scribes who desire to go around in their long robes, love greetings in the marketplaces, the best seats in the synagogues, and the best places at feasts. These guys, they would go through the market in their long flowing robes, receiving bows and praise and respect from everyone. And all these actions were motivated by pride. The tax collector comes in humility. And he realizes his need is so great that there's no room for concern about what other people think. He's only concerned about talking to God about his sins and his needs because he was concerned about what God thinks of him. We have no idea what God thinks of us. You really don't want to know. If you really want to know God's truth about what He thinks of us, pray. Seek His face. And it won't take long before all the veil is pulled down and you can see what God thinks of us. For pride always sees the faults of others. This Pharisee looks around and sees people and says to God, I thank you that I'm not like other men, extortioners, unjust, adulterers, even like this stinking tax collector here. But contrary to that attitude, a humble person is not critical because he sees his own faults and he realizes he has no right to be critical of anyone else. But pride always claims the right. I am right. I know I'm right. And only when you agree with me will you be right. But the humble person recognizes he can be very likely to be wrong. He needs God's help to find the truth. Having said that, let's go back to the original question. Will God still bless America? It's a difficult question to answer because pride is thumbing its nose at God's merciful patience. But there's an interesting passage that I want to call your attention to. And it concerns the evil king Manasseh that we were talking about first in this message. 2 Chronicles 33, 10 through 13. And the Lord spoke to Manasseh and his people, but they would not listen. Therefore the Lord brought upon them the captains of the army of the king of Syria, who took Manasseh with hooks, bound him with bronze fetters, carried him off to Babylon. Now when he was in affliction, he implored the Lord his God and humbled himself greatly before the God of his fathers and prayed to him. And he received his entreaty, heard his supplication, and brought him back to Jerusalem into his kingdom. Then Manasseh knew that the Lord was God. I'm not sure if we've gone too far so far that God will no longer bless our country. But this I know. We've not gone too far. You see, the good outcome is that even though God destroyed Judah, that when Manasseh, this evil king, came back to God and sincerely repented, God was moved by his repentance and God forgave him. So the promise God gives in 2 Chronicles 7:14 is still his promise today. If my people, that is, if God's people who are called by my name will humble themselves, there's no room for pride here. And if they will come before God with contrite and humble hearts and pray, now I know that we're busy in our everyday lives, I know that. But one of the most important things we need to do this week is to take a few minutes and pray for our nation. Pray for our nation. Because what? This is urgent. We waste time and not seek God's counsel on what's going on in our nation. And for him to interact with our nation in a positive way, we really kind of take that for granted. Oh, it's on autopilot, and God will just take care of it. God wants to hear from you. He just said so. If our people, that's us. We need to pray. They need to pray humbly and seek his face. Seek the will of God for your life, for your church, and for your country. And turn from your wicked ways. If you do turn from your sins, then God's promise is, I will hear. I will hear you. And I will forgive you. And I will heal your land. That's God's promise. That's what we need to do before God will respond to us. Well, God still loves America. No one has that answer. As Christians who study the Bible and know the Bible just a little bit, can see where this is headed if we don't come back to the Lord. Maybe it is too late for us. We're certainly witnessing the decline of this country. Its behavior is falling into the steps of Israel. It's already evident that the sacrifices that made this country great are being trampled upon and erased. The sacrifices of all those fathers, sons, daughters, and mothers who marched off to war to protect our freedom are being minimized as no one important. Maybe our country is being prepared to drift off into history, someplace and be forgotten. Then maybe not. Our future is in God's hands. The health of our country is not on our knees, praying to God to interact, to get into our nation and change hearts. Maybe there is time to turn around. Maybe there is still time for our nation to receive God's forgiveness and blessing. But one thing is for sure. It's not too late for us as individuals, as believers, as Christians. We can receive God's love and his mercy, God's grace, and God's forgiveness. There are a lot of people in our nation who need salvation. It's not too late for them, but the door is gradually closing. It'll be too late. Continue to pray for our nation. Continue to pray for our church. Continue to pray for you and your family. Because during these days we need God's strength, we need his mercy more than ever. Please stand. Let's close the word. Father in heaven, we come before your throne of mercy today. Asking you, Lord, to deal with us in a way, Lord, that we'll recognize who you are. Our nation has stepped away from you long ago. And Father, we realize what kind of rock takes place when we step away from you. Father, may we be drawn to you with humble hearts, seeking you daily, Lord, seeking your face and seeking your interaction in our nation, Lord, and hearts being changed. Father, it's only through the prayers of your people do we recognize, Lord, that we need you. We need you desperately, Father. Father, we thank you for this day that we can come, these few minutes to come together to preach and to sing to you, Lord. It's such a blessing. So I pray for everyone here today. I pray, Lord, that you'll give them peace this week. Father, give them comfort. And Father, may we be reminded to pray. Give everyone a safe journey home, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray.